We're back with more talk time here on Activated Mornings with Roleza and Dianna on the Clean Fresh Sound 99.9. We have Mr. Kingsley DeFreitas online who
he was there and then he left. So
okay, Kingsley.
Yes, you could. It was a minute early, but Kingsley can go ahead and call us now, please. All right, Paige and Kingsley. We saw the call coming in, so we tried to take it early. Paige and Kingsley.
All right, maybe it was an accident. We don't know, but we're supposed to be having our commentary from Kingsley at this time, but we don't have Kingsley, so we're just gonna start talking about something else and see if he may call back. Now we're gonna look into.
Right, so there was just one more thing that I wanted to add from the last segment. The police did state that they are looking for the female regarding the Vermont killing, right? But one of the things that I was a bit disappointed with was that no description of this woman was given, right? So I don't know who women are supposed to be on the lookout for. Now, maybe it is intentional because we don't want for persons to feel as though she is definitely involved. But if she is somebody who we are supposed to be looking out for, or you want for her to come forward, or you want the public to come forward with information regarding this woman, we don't know who we're looking for, right? So I think that was one of the things I was a little bit disappointed with, right? So that's it. Morning, Kingsley.
Morning. I want to ask you guys something. Miss Sandra in particular, you drive all the morning. When you drive an all the morning, because I leave home at least between 4:30 in the morning from Fair to get to the international airport. And when I drive on my way, I see all sorts of people on the road. Security workers who working in every department. And when I look at them, they all are poor people who trying to make ends meet. And it said to me one thing. When I hear Dr. Gonzalez said some time ago, he has a policy for making no children left behind. And I get the impression that he thinks an educated nation is a good nation. And I agree with him. But you and I know it are people who have to do certain jobs. The one who have to pack the bags, the one who have to take care of this and that. And all of us come together, and once we walk, we're making St. Vincent and the Grenadines a better place. And I often wonder if people sit and study how the poor people are helping St. Vincent to sustain its economy. You go into Kingston, you see somebody on the roadside, and you will say, well, that she could do, well, at least she make an effort to do something that is not illegal. And I mean, I often wonder, and I see it every morning. I meet people from all sectors of life hustling from work or hustling to get to work because they have to be there on time to make that impact on our economy and our work landscape. And I always say, I do it every day. Once I meet people who are working, I ask them, are you sure that your employees or employers are paying your NIS? If they say no, I tell them to go and check. If they're self-employed like me, I encourage them to go and join it because when you study the impact poor people like you and I put into development, and we go work all year, the whole of our life, and when the time comes for us to retire, we can't see any value in terms of what we work for, in terms of immediate savings, because what we're trying to do is to put food on our immediate table. And I often wonder if the politicians and other people in society think about the importance of the average woman, child, worker in St. Vincent and Grenadines. And as somebody who drives to work a morning, I'll give you that little assignment for yourself. Just pay attention to the persons on the street. Some of them like refer to themselves as hustlers who are trying to eke out a living. And the system is designed in a particular way that we will work, and we will not be rewarded. And what I'm hoping is that if they get a family and get children, they must try to put things in place to make sure that their children have an education. Last time when we had the common entrance exam, I look at the amount of single parents that referring to mothers who went to accompany their children and their child to school because they want to make sure pass the information on so that the children could be educated so they put themselves in a better position when they become older. So when I've gone to have said here that he's going to make sure no child left behind and every home should have an university graduate inside of that immediate present, I am supporting that. So I'm just making an appeal for young people. Pay attention to all the immediate environment. Like, the time I've been driving a taxi since 1983. I can't show you 83 cents of sleeping, but I'm walking every day. And if I come for some reason can't own a vehicle to do, people will say, but since I know he working already, poor people like you and I could really save anything. The salaries we get sometimes, if we manage it properly, then we don't pay to light bill, because you have to pay your light bill, your water bill, you might want a little comfort of having the internet home, and you find yourself struggling to just the basic things. So all I could tell people and the young people who listen and their parents, encourage them to grab an education. And I am really applauding the effort I see from the young parents, especially the mothers, who accompany their children to the schools to make sure that they pass the common entrance. And if you want to know how proud they are, we just say the result out. You see on the newspaper, we just got to publish that would be the biggest seller for the newspaper because they want to know my child and my grandchild came forth and going to the girls at the boys' grammar school. And I'll have a wonderful day and see you right here tomorrow morning.
All right. Have a good and a safe one, Kingsley.
Yeah.
All right, so that was Kingsley DeFreitas with his commentary and asking the question, do we recognize how poor people help to sustain our economy? And it's a very interesting question. You raised some very interesting points. Kingsley, yes, I have noticed people. I always notice the hustlers going about, those persons who are of the poorer class. The cartmen, those who push the little trolleys between businesses to make some money, helping to carry your groceries. Those trying to hustle some sitting in the hot sun, or they're trying to hustle some provision or trying to hustle some sort of thing that they imported and are trying to make a little money off of. I notice my people, man. I've also noticed just the other day, I was thinking about the fact that some persons would work their entire life. First person on the job, last person to leave. But when they retire, they still don't even have enough money to live in retirement. And then after retirement, have to go and look for another job to keep themselves up, because what they made before was not enough for them to live on. Of course, when you talk about money and the issue of money, people will say, hey, you should cut back. You should cut back on certain things. But if you already have nothing, what you gonna cut back on? He also talked about, I'm going to stay there for now and go head over to Roleza so Roleza could give her comments.
All right. So with that last part that you raised, there are times when I can hear persons making the comments, oh, you work your whole life and you don't have nothing to show for it. And I can understand, right? Especially when it comes to persons who have children, especially single mothers. It is a very difficult juggling act to be able to not just raise a child, but raise a child, pay your bills, and try to save money. So when it is that some persons literally don't have any savings, I totally understand, because many persons are they have to budget down to their very last dollar. And I think one of the things that when I think about children and single parents in particular raising children, while it is that the mothers may not necessarily have something tangible to show for it, like a house, a piece of land or whatever. Once their children have turned out to be decent children within society, I think sometimes for them that is enough, right? Once the children are able to, stand on their own feet, to have their own accomplishments, or to be able to achieve the things that they have not been able to achieve, or the things that they wanted to achieve, that many parents get that satisfaction enough. Because really and truly, to be able to raise a child on your own, and people saying, but you don't even have a $500 saved. Listen, people out there who find themselves in this position don't feel bad, because I get it. All right. Yep. I totally get it. I also do look at persons on mornings. So Kingsley, when I come out on mornings, it's just between Clay Valley and Kittle. So I ain't really seen a whole heap of people, right? But I do recognize that the persons who I tend to see early in the mornings are persons who are working security guard jobs. All right. And of course, I always look at the situation and they're females. I see one or two men, but more of them are females. And I'm always a little bit concerned about their safety, right? Because yes, they have to go out and they have to make this living, but you had to get up so early in the morning, especially when it's Christmas time. The place still dark around 6 o'clock, right? I'm always concerned about their safety, but people do what they have to do, right? I would also admit that when it is that I became self-employed, as in I wasn't working here at WEFM, just the period when I was self-employed, I had a greater appreciation for persons who are vendors, who are selling on the street, people who have their own businesses, because every little dollar that you get is what is helping to sustain you, right? Is either helping you to pay to send your child to school, is either helping to pay for the roof that's over your head, is helping to pay for you to put money back into your business itself. I had a greater appreciation for it. And this is why, yes, it is that I want to be able to support the big businesses sometimes. And of course I do when it is that the need comes. But for me, what it is that I tend to do right now is, if I know that there is a smaller person who has a particular product or a particular service, I support the smaller man first, right? Okay. And I think the appreciation came from having to be in that position. And I get it. When I tell Ali, I get it. I get it. All right. So that is one of the things. So, I mean, as much as, yes, we don't want to encourage the street vending, I have always said it here that I do. I mean, people come out on the street and they're really supposed to be in the market. I mean, I go into the market when I can't find what I want on the street. But, I just pass along the street. I pick up 2 things from somebody, because this is probably helping to pay for their water bill. This is helping to pay for their child's preschool bill. It's just the little things. And yes, the poor people, although we don't necessarily recognize them as much, but they do help to sustain our economy. They help to keep things moving. And one of the things as well that I have truly had an appreciation for is, Dianna buys a product from me, I go and support the business in my community, or I go and support somebody else with a small business. So all it really does is just moving from one hand to the next. All right. It doesn't necessarily stay with me, but it passes through me for me to be able to support other persons. So big up all the people out there, whether you're selling on the street, whether you are a conductor or a van driver, whether you are walking around town selling supplies such as toilet paper, you're walking around with fruit, Dalpri men who are always out by these shows and everything, all the little persons, and I'm using little persons in quotation marks here, all the little persons who find themselves out on the streets having to hustle, and hustling, this word is a positive word, it's a legitimate hustle. Big up all of you today, because you all help to push the economy and help to keep persons employed. All right, so
big up everybody. That's right. This is unfortunate that we have to be in this particular situation where there are some who have so much, and then there are some who have so little that they're struggling. They're really struggling to make ends meet. And it's interesting to me. It's something that I am continuously looking into. This whole rat race. If you've never heard of the rat race, it's this way of life in which people are I'm reading the Google definition for you. A way of life in which people are caught up in a fiercely competitive struggle for wealth or power. Right. So that is what is referred to as the rat race, the unpleasant life of people who have jobs that require them to work very hard in order to compete with others for money, power, and status. We live in St. Vincent and the Grenadines right now. And right now in this country, there is somebody who cannot even afford a bread tip. But at the same time, there is somebody in the country who could buy a whole bag of bread, probably for everybody in the country, and still have money left over. But that's life.
And do you fault that person though, because they could have worked for it?
I'm not saying they didn't work for it. I'm not faulting them, but it's just the way the system was set up. But oftentimes we don't want to hear about the system and understand that it's not coincidence that we are the way we are, and some have so much and others have so little. This is not a coincidence. The system is working as it was designed to work, right? So education is important because it would help you to make certain informed decisions. Now, according to who you are in this world, I can't even give you something optimistic here. I just have to say, according to who you are in this world, suffering is just going to be your thing. And then there are some others who will never experience that suffering, never ever, because they're born into a family of privilege. They're gonna continue to get those privileges. Some people you call trust fund babies, and those people, and that's how the life is for us. We have big corporations, big organizations that are ripping us off. There's just so much that contributes to this, but we're not encouraged to look in that direction, right?
I generally have a mixed opinion with thoughts like this, right? Not so much the corporations part of it, but I look at persons who have worked very hard all their life to accumulate the wealth that they have. Should you suddenly look at me in a particular way, say, "Oh, Mr. This and this, or Miss So and So have this and that, and she could help such and such person."
I don't think that's
because you have it. If you've worked for it, then
I don't think that's the point. The point that I'm trying to make here. The point I'm trying to make is, just imagine you're in a country where you have people who can't afford to eat. But at the same time, and not just in Vincent alone, obviously the entire world, but at the same time, you have people who could afford to feed everybody else.
But then what do you say about persons who may not have been born with privilege, may not have been born within a network, but they worked themselves up the ladder?
Nothing is wrong with that.
Right. So don't we celebrate, and isn't that what we should be encouraging, as opposed to looking at persons who have it?
But at the same time, now, obviously, nothing, when I say things, a generalization does not refer to everybody. There are always going to be exceptions, but not everybody that has wealth got there honestly. A lot of people that have wealth, they underpay people so that they could profit more.
Okay, right.
They have people like slaves. They work in for them for free, doing, with whatever form of threats or whatever they have you. So not everybody that has wealth got there honestly. I have no problem with you being born poor and you work hard and you get your way to the top. Big up you. I love stories like that. But I have a problem when you use people who are human beings, flesh and blood, just like you, to get ahead, and then you come to give some.
Okay, so in those situations, yes, I get where you're coming from, but there's always this thing that I hear sometimes about persons looking down on people who have made it. And why are we looking down on people who have pulled themselves up? They've literally worked hard. It's like, I am coming to work every day. I'm at home doing whatever work that is I'm doing. But you on the block sitting down, you not doing anything at all, and you asking me for money when I have to wake up after 4 every day to come into the
I ain't sending anybody to ask for money.
but that's what I'm saying. So when you look at it in cases where persons who, we will look at the guys on the block and say, they're unemployed, they can't find a job, they this and they that, right? They may have come from poor families, and as a result of that, they may not have had as much exposure or experience as other persons. But is it because they did not? Is it because of their circumstances, or is it that they choose to allow their circumstances to let them remain where they are? And then they look at people like me, or you, or anybody else out there who's legitimately getting up and doing a job, and then saying, "Oh, you have it, so why can't you give me?" I'm looking at those situations, not so much those who scheming and right. That's the situation I'm looking at, and that's why I said I'm always a little bit iffy with this particular discussion, because I can see where persons have a sort of hatred towards persons who have made it, knowing that there are some persons who just are looking for handouts, and that is the problem that I have. Yeah.
All right. So you have. All right. So it's 8:03.
We will pick this up. I see for somebody trying to call. We will pick it up in the next segment.
It is 8:03, and we have to head out because in just about a minute or two, we have to bring to you today's foreign policy in focus. And just our time check, our 8:03 time check came to you by the New Haven Funeral Home.
Death is a fact of life.